Hello and welcome to a brand new Coordination Overreaction. I'm your host, Greg Mahochko, joined as always by the man who needs a cold one after this past weekend, and that's Hoss Reuter, my friend, my broadcast buddy. How are you?
You know what? I've been better, Greg. Let's put it that way, okay?
Yeah.
You want me to give you the quick rundown on how the past 72 hours went?
Let me stop you right there. Let's refresh the minds of our listeners and viewers. You made the trip to East Lansing. Got up and left some ungodly hour on Friday, right?
I got up. I left my residence at probably right at 6. Picked up one friend at 6:30. 30-minute drive to pick up another one, and then we were probably on the east side of Council Bluffs by about 8 a.m. So it wasn't ungodly early, but we forgot about a few things. It was kind of like the Odyssey, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, where they're just kind of like along for the ride,
Yeah.
all these different side quests where we stopped in Iowa City to flip off Kinnick Stadium, which I should send that to you. And I told them rent's due on the 24th of this month. Because you know what? They're going to start paying rent to us. That's as nicely as I'm going to put it, but there's a new landlord in the Big Ten West, Kirk.
The rent free is over.
Yeah. And then had lunch at the Vine in Iowa City, which I think I probably mentioned it in the past on podcast. I've been to a couple of Nebraska, Iowa games in Iowa City. The Vine is phenomenal. I'm a big Reuben guy, big Reuben sandwich guy, because I'm German Irish.
And from the Omaha area.
Exactly. And so they actually have the best Reuben I've ever had in my entire life.
Interesting.
And then they also serve Coors Banquet beer.
That's unfortunate.
And so stopped there for lunch, and we were there for maybe about an hour, or so. And we hit the road. Well, we hit south side of Chicago right as the Friday rush hour was starting on I-80 at Joliet.
Oh,
let me tell you, things got a little Western there.
Every man for himself.
Yeah, Chicago road rules were going on, But we got through Chicago all right, and then we switched drivers. So I drove the entire way from Omaha to east of the Illinois state line, and I should have known this as a social studies guy. We stopped in Gary, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
That might take the cake as the worst place I have ever been to in my entire life.
Now that's funny because it's a very catchy tune in The Music Man.
I had to watch that musical when I was like in 6th grade. My older sister was in it as a freshman in high school. That song was stuck in my head for about 2 hours after stopping. I found myself humming it because I'm like reading Twitter in the back seat because like I switched. I drove. We stopped to get gas at the Travel Center, right in Gary. And then I hop in the back of the Toyota Highlander, and I'm just sitting there on Twitter, and I'm going, Gary, Indiana. And I'm just like, God, why?
Do you want me to sing it for you?
No, please. Greg, I hated that musical in 2002. I hate that musical in 2023. I'm just not a big musical guy in general.
So I that's fine, and I appreciate that. I am like not musical theater. I never did shows or anything like that. But like you put on The Music Man, I'm gonna sit down and watch. You put on the Mary Poppins or The Sound of Music, you have my attention.
No way.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna apologize for who I am.
Mary Poppins makes me feel very weird.
Okay. I don't know why.
No, just like it makes me feel okay. Have you ever seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yes.
You know that weird feeling from that?
From Jessica Rabbit?
No, it's the live animation.
Okay.
Okay, you're not one of the youths. I'm sorry.
No,
someone more my age would understand.
I guess.
But no, like so.
Let me just put it this way: maybe a spoonful of sugar would have helped your weekend to go a little better.
You're telling me. You're telling me. No, got into East Lansing finally at about 9 o'clock. So adjusting for the time zone change and all that, we were on the road for basically 14 hours.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so after that we went to eat in East Lansing. I'm not going to name the name of the restaurant, but it was the worst service I've ever had in my entire life. Like the wait staff was openly hostile towards us.
Are you sure it wasn't like that? Was it like Ed
No, it wasn't
or
like
something?
Dick's Last Resort. No.
Okay.
No. It was like openly hostile, like welcome to the blank, 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 the fuck you want. That was basically
great.
Yeah. So
how was the game day atmosphere?
They're a late arriving crowd.
Okay.
So like we thought we were gonna have all this room and then like it filled in. They know more about basketball than they do about football, which
that makes sense.
Kind of makes sense. They had some really good beer at the stadium from some like new Oberon brewing company in Michigan. It was called Sparty Party. It was actually it was 7%. 7% New England IPA that I drank on an empty stomach because breakfast didn't sound great Saturday morning. And weather was decent, wasn't too bad. And then, I'm trying to think of where we ate after that. Oh, I almost buried the lead. Their students don't know anything about football. I don't think they really care. But boy, you know what they do love? Everything else that a college student loves, talking shit after their team wins.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I heard the Nebraska corn huggers, and it's like, ooh, good one.
Well, that's probably somewhat mild as far as things they could say.
I mean, like me being a social studies guy, I was like, God, I could come up with a lot of stuff about the state of Michigan.
Yeah, because you're smart. They're dumb college kids. Now, we want to preface by saying that not all college kids are dumb.
I would have some retort towards them about the state of Michigan. That'd be like, yeah, well, your industries were built upon non-renewable resources. Just some serious nerd shit.
You bring up Flint, they'll really have a hard time.
Yep. Do they still not have clean water?
I have no idea. I don't check the headlines. I
don't watch the news.
Exactly. So you had a horrible trip. Realistically, I mean, from
what the best part of the trip was?
Getting home.
There's a store called Meijer, Meijer, up in Michigan.
I've heard of that.
It's like Super Target meets Walmart meets Costco, and they all decide to have a baby together, which sounds really bad as I named 3 instead of 2.
A little bit of DNA from each one.
But it was awesome. I wanted to buy a souvenir there, but because I just despise both Michigan schools, I didn't want to buy like a State of Michigan T-shirt,
right.
like the Great Lakes State. So I bought a Carhartt hoodie, since Carhartt's made in Detroit. But this store was amazing. I mean, I was like, man, if we had one of these in Omaha, I wouldn't shop anywhere else.
Yeah. So you had issues going there. You loved Gary, Indiana so much that you paid the toll to avoid it on the way home. And wedged in all of this, Nebraska didn't get the job done. Mm-hmm. They lost 20-17, a very winnable game, a game that they should have won. And this goes back to, I think, what Matt Rule said almost a month ago now when he said, there's not a team we can't beat and there's not a team that can't beat us. But I think the biggest lesson that we learned this past Saturday is Nebraska's biggest foe is sometimes going to be Nebraska.
Yeah, we did not. Let me tell you, the fine citizens of East Lansing would be very disappointed in what I'm about to say. Michigan State did not beat Nebraska. Nebraska. And that was evident from the very first drive of the game when they hit a seam route right down the middle of the field to their tight end. Luke Gifford and
Isaac Gifford.
Thank you. Isaac Gifford, and who's the other safety starting in?
Sanford?
Phelan Sanford. They're playing cover 2. and they bite on some short routes at 12 yards. And Michigan State fits the seam, right in between them. That was kind of the moment where I was thinking, and not to be too reactionary, it's the first drive of the game, but I was kind of thinking, okay, this doesn't look good. That's a very undisciplined play. And then from there, Michigan State started hitting some stuff that was just getting the ball out quick, trying to negate our rush. And we opted to keep guys in coverage and not bring a whole lot of extra pressure on blitzes or, simulated pressures. And so we were trying to get pressure with 4, just our front 4. And this is the one time where I was kind of like, maybe that wasn't the greatest way to defend a team, especially like Michigan State. But then when you consider that Hauser is a little bit more of a mobile quarterback, we had to kind of account for him in the run game as well. But the defense really, I don't want to say they played badly, because they didn't. I mean, there were years, Greg, just recently, that if we would have gave up 295 yards and 20 points, we would have been over the moon excited with how well the defense played.
Yes.
We're already getting conditioned to having a good defense under Tony White, and that standard is getting higher and higher. But then offensively, I think that the insistence on trying to attack Michigan State through the air was maybe a little bit short-sighted, especially from the standpoint of the times that we had the most success is when we were running downhill out of the pistol, the slice play that Emmett Johnson scored on at the end against Purdue. We ran that, a few times against Michigan State. And we were really starting to run stuff out of the eye very effectively, getting downhill, running inside zone slice with, the fullback cutting off the backside D end and the running back going the other way and, picking a hole, one cut and get upfield. And so when we would mix in going empty and trying to hit, stick routes to Fedoni or bubble screens to Bullock or, some of the deep passes out of the shotgun formation as well, it really kind of disrupted the flow of the offense, not so much from a sequencing standpoint, but because you went away from what was successful. And we don't have a quarterback right now that can accurately fit a ball into a window or can accurately read coverage. I could probably pull, quite half a dozen examples from Michigan State where he doesn't read his progressions. And, before anyone, wants to get mad about, hey, they're just college kids. Like, this is nothing to do with him personally. This is just, on the football field from a clinical standpoint. He locks on to who he's throwing to before the ball is snapped. And you can see it because the second he receives the snap, his eyes aren't anywhere else but that receiver. He is deciding before the ball is snapped who he's going to throw to. If you're Marcus Satterfield, you have to maintain some semblance of a passing game as just a threat to the defense, which, I get it. We're going to take some shots and, we've been successful on a few of those shots. But if I were Marcus Satterfield, I'd want to have an aneurysm trying to call plays with a quarterback that doesn't accurately read coverages or go through his progressions, because that makes it that much harder. It's my opinion that if we had a quarterback, any of the quarterbacks over the past 8-9 years in that time frame, whether it's Tommy Armstrong or Tanner Lee or Adrian Martinez, I would even say Noah Vedral, Casey Thompson, any of those guys, Nebraska's 8-1. Because the offensive line is actually getting better. They're actually playing solid football.
Patchwork as it is.
Exactly. And the receivers, even though they're freshmen, they're damn good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Bullock was wide ass open on that interception. Instead of fitting it right down the seam, Harburg throws it across the middle, arm punts it across the middle, basically. It's like, low, it's like a pitch right across the fat part of home plate. So we can't have these mistakes continue to pile up when you're looking at everything that gets compounded together. The running game has to be supplemented by some semblance of a passing game. On top of that, we're having to drive the length of the field. While special teams is giving up really short fields to our opponents. We got our ass owned in field position. And then I haven't even gotten to the worst one of, the gaffes. Jalen Lloyd, wide ass open on a shallow screen, a designed shallow screen where he's running a shallow crossing route. The receivers are getting downfield to block for him. He's the lone read. Maybe they have an alert just to take the safety, and I think that was Fedoni going up the seam. Other than that, it's Lloyd coming across the middle. All you got to do is throw the ball maybe 6 yards in the air right to him. This thing could have popped for maybe 40, 45 late in the fourth quarter. Harburg throws it to the seam, double coverage, it's picked off. We're not going to win a lot of football games long term with that as our quarterback play. It's a Band-Aid situation right now. It's a triage situation where you're just trying to, survive and advance. But in the future, this is the importance of the quarterback position in modern college football. Look at what we have to deal with, what we have. And then if any of you turned on USC in Washington on Saturday night, look at what they have. It might as well be two different sports. So I know that was long-winded, Greg. It looked like you wanted to jump in a few times.
I did, but I forgot.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Or as they say up north, sorry.
Sorry. Do they say that in East Lansing?
I don't know.
Not that any of those turds in the punch bowl were nice enough to apologize for anything.
It's a beautiful campus there. I will say that. It's a gorgeous campus.
If you're not a turd in the punch bowl.
Yeah. It smells like red cedar all over.
Oh, now that does sound nice.
Trees. Yeah.
That sounds. And fall, I'm sure is lovely. Yeah, just a shame that Nebraska had to poop the bed.
The whole thing that's so frustrating about it is you think you have a chance.
We talked ourselves into it.
Despite the warts that we have, you think you still have a chance late in the game. And it gets taken out of your hands by the worst officiating ever. I mean, that I know the names of the Big Ten officials. I recognize them. I'm like, okay, we got this crew. I am in the stadium. I can't even see the ref because I'm 8 rows from the very top of the stadium. I hear the official make the first call of the game, penalty of the game, and I turn to my buddy and I go, oh, shit, we got Jerry McGinn. Recognize him from voice alone. And you know what we got? We got a very Jerry McGinn game. That's the worst crew in the Big Ten.
And it's for the entirety of the season, the entirety of his time here, Matt Rule has not made excuses. Though in his weekly presser, he did mention the officiating. Now look, there's the no call face mask, no call defensive pass interference. You clean up a lot of the other things, then a lot of these missed calls don't mean anything. It sucks that they didn't call the pass interference, when Malachi Coleman was rushing down there, but hey, we still won, 34-20 or whatever it might have been, water under the bridge.
A judgment call is one thing. Something on review, a whole nother ball game.
And I'm not, again,
I know.
But there's less sting to it when, we don't lose a game that was more than winnable, which this Michigan State game was.
Well, any of those quarterbacks from the past 8 or 9 years, and I'm pretty sure we win this game by 3 touchdowns. I'm serious.
Well, I'm not. Here's the thing. We go back 4 years. I mean, we always complained about Adrian Martinez's completion percentage and his accuracy.
And then I think we've discovered something in the interim since then. It was Frost and Verduzco that were the problem.
And I don't want to relitigate.
No. We're not doing this anymore on this podcast. No more relitigation.
Fine.
I do know. I was saying that about myself, not you.
Yeah. But I know there was a time when you were a big fan of a sunglass and cigar quarterback coach.
Yeah, because, everybody was. It was in the first year of the Frost era.
Yeah, it was the honeymoon period.
Yep.
So, let's real quick. I want to point this out maybe you noticed it in the game on Saturday, maybe you didn't. Nebraska was not charged with a penalty at all on Saturday.
Running into the kicker.
Well, there's a note here right from Huskers.com that says Nebraska was not charged with the penalty in the game.
No, we ran into the punter at one point.
Yeah, but they declined that.
Oh, they didn't. There you
go. It's the first time the Huskers were not penalized since. Do you know? Can you recall in your close? It seems. It seems equally long. September 3rd, 2005, against Maine.
Shit, I remember listening to that game on the radio.
Yeah, I was in Shattern for that game. I probably was in the studio or in the station, listening to that while working on something else. So, anyway.
And that's the thing, like, we showed improvement.
I was going to say, one of the things that we've been hoping to see was better discipline.
Yeah, we showed improvement with no penalties. It's the turnovers that continue to kill us. And, like, when I was walking out of the stadium, I was looking at the stats. We out-yarded them. We had more time of possession. We had more first downs. We ran for more yards, threw for more yards. Everything was there, except for one number.
The turnovers?
The number 3. You can't really see it because the blur on my MacBook camera. 3 turnovers. It's a point where it has to get fixed. And it's when it comes to something like passing mechanics, it's a little bit more difficult to fix that because of the fact that, you start messing with the quarterback's mechanics, they tend to get a case of the yips, especially in season. That's definitely a spring ball kind of project there. But as far as I can recall from being at the game, because I've only rewatched about half of it since I got home last night, we didn't have a fumble.
No.
So we fixed the fumbling issue. At least it looks like for the time being. But the interceptions continue to plague us. So, you have no fumbles, you have no penalties. If you would have told me that Friday night as I was driving through Gary, Indiana, that we would have no turnover or no fumbles, no penalties, I'd be like,
we did. Harburg fumbled twice, lost one.
Well, the fumble at the end should have been an incomplete pass. That was an absolute horse shit of a call.
So just want to make sure that our statistics, somebody would complain or someone would yell in the comments, "Oh, we have fumbled." But I agree. It shouldn't have been a fumble.
All right. So you take away that one, he's left with one fumble.
Yeah.
Is that correct? All right. If you would have told me on the way up there that we would have had no penalties and only one fumble, I'd been like, how badly did we beat them?
Right.
Like you had to like your chances. But, the luck that Harburg's been playing with on dropped interceptions, well, that's come back to, that chicken's come home to roost the past few weeks.
It's his line was 12 of 28, 2 interceptions, 129 yards, no touchdowns, was sacked 7 times. Found his buddy and roommate, Thomas Fedoni II, 3 receptions for 43 yards. Alex Bullock, 3 receptions, 37. Malachi Coleman, 2 for 39. And then a whole slew of guys had 1. Got to get the ball into Jaden Doss's hands more. Jalen Lloyd, like you mentioned, Lloyd had just the 1 screen reception for a loss of 4 yards. So,
well, you'd bet I would have had another 45 if Harvard
if they would have caught him across on the slant.
Yeah.
Now running, this is again where I need my shirt. John, if you're listening or watching this, you asked me the size. I told you the size I was expecting.
Get it the fuck together, John.
A shirt. Not to say that I need another grown man to buy me clothes, but I'm underpaid and overworked, so I'll take the freebie.
Yeah.
I'm still look. When you have, I don't want to say the yips. I don't want to say anything. When you have the issues that we've had in the passing game, again, you got to run the damn ball. Emmett Johnson had 13 carries, netted 57 yards, had a touchdown. Heinrich Harburg even 14 carries, netted 37, gained 75 yards. lost 38. You know,
I think
netted
sacks
for 40.
come out of passing yardage, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. Anthony Grant had 9 carries for 35 yards. I'd like to see these guys I'd like to see our run game do more.
Run game, the tailback run game should have had about, if we would have committed to it and it would have had about 40 carries, I think we win this game.
I don't know how to tell you this. Well, it's tough because again, Harburg's the tailback. I got
tailback.
Okay. And again, Harburg get the sacks or the tackles for loss against him get counted as runs. But take
right there
specifically, and Jalen Lloyd, we can't count his because
he had to reverse that. Actually, almost popped.
Yes, it did, which is kind of exciting, but also I don't know if I like reverses. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what I thought was one of the best play calls that we had all day was that little we tried to hit Fleeks on a little leak out of the backfield on a mesh play. And that was 3rd and 8, and we settled for a field goal deep inside the red zone. And great play call. Love the idea of using misdirection, just kind of the natural leverage in the passing game in that area of the field. And it's, it's moments like that where it's like, hey, if that one is a touchdown or a first down, it would have been a first down inside the 2. It's a different ball game. If Jalen Lloyd on that shallow screen, different ball game. So many different. If it's not called a touchdown, Jerry McGinn's crew doesn't call that last touchdown for Michigan State a touchdown. It's a different ball game. So there's so many different things that you can point to, and just say, if, and it drives. I think it drives all of us Husker fans nuts from the standpoint that that's what we've all been doing for the past 20-something years.
Yeah, we tend to what if these games and these seasons to death.
The reality is we're a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
We are a good football team. We just have some deficiencies in a few areas.
Going back to that tailback running game, take away Jalen Lloyd's reverse, take away Heinrich Harburg's attempts, and you're looking at about 26 carries from the tailback position. Emmett Johnson, Anthony Grant, Josh Fleeks. I agree. If we got that number closer to 40, the run game's all about wearing down the defense.
And you're starting to see us you're starting to actually see us punch some holes in some fronts. The way, tail end of the Purdue game, then on the same play, that slice play against Michigan State, you saw us start to kind of really lean on them and start to, open up some holes in the front. Give Emmett Johnson a chance to get into a rhythm. He's an explosive back, and it looks like there are times that he's a little bit impatient when he gets the ball because his touches are a little limited still. So, he just tries to barrel through there. And, there were a few times that he ran into contact and basically got himself tackled when he could have had more run, space to run if he just would have, used his vision a little bit more. So, get him into a rhythm and see if that, those runs early in the game start turning into bigger, more explosive runs later in the game. So he's getting in tune with, what to look for, what to expect.
All in all, it was an uninspiring effort from the offense, which I think makes the next part of the conversation much more difficult because the defense didn't look like the defense that we had come to expect.
No.
Over the last 2 weeks.
We're kind of spoiled a little bit already. We're expecting more.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good problem to have, I suppose.
It's a good problem to have. But they looked a little uninspired. They looked a little bit flat-footed. They played, I don't want to say undisciplined in the sense of they're out there doing stupid shit or they're, going rogue on something. But really what it is they just played uninspired from a lack of energy, it seemed like.
Our tackles for loss were down. Our sacks were down.
Energy. I'm yawning in the middle of talking, But what I was gonna say, I know, Greg, you look so disappointed that I yawned. Now you're gonna yawn.
It's contagious, even over a computer screen.
400 and some miles.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is, they just look like they weren't keyed in to their assignments as well as they could be, and it looked like it was an energy problem where it's a sleepy 11 a.m. kickoff, noon Eastern time kickoff. and it just kind of, it's in front of a crowd that was pretty fair to middling at the beginning of the game, to say the least. So, sometimes you got to bring your own energy, bring the juice on your own and be fired up. And I don't think we're going to see a repeat of that the rest of the year.
I have a feeling, that Tony White will have his crew running at optimum levels. Maryland at home, Wisconsin on the road, Iowa at home on Black Friday. We'll get into those. It's not time to look ahead yet. Kind of, and I don't know how much of this got heard. Getting into the offensive backfield, I don't want to say it was difficult. It just didn't happen as often. We talked a little bit about that with the 4-man rush, not bringing, blitz packages as much, things like that. And again, a lot of that stems from the respect that Tony White and the coaching staff seem to have for quarterback Hauser, who's a little bit more fleet-footed. And I've said this for well over a decade now, is I hate mobile quarterbacks for the other team.
Love them on yours.
Yeah. Only 3 sacks for 20 yards, 7 tackles for loss for 29. No fumbles, no interceptions, only 1 quarterback hit. And
they did a good job protecting.
They did. It was more of a, I guess, a typical Big Ten offensive line type of protection package. Cam Lenhart made some noise. He had 4 tackles. Tommy Hill. I mean, they talked about Tommy Hill as from the, and I don't know again how much of this you've seen from the half of football that you've seen, but they on the broadcast they keyed on Tommy Hill quite a bit. I think if you asked him, he'd be kind of disappointed in his, I don't want to say performance. Like, I don't know. I mean, he did all right, but they were keying on him early and attacking him early on in the game. Let's see here. Marquise Buford, good to see him back out there. He had 2 tackles. Ty Robinson and the Polar Bear each with 3. Isaac Gifford 5. Nick Henrich 5. Jamari Butler doing some good things, making some noise. He had 5 tackles. Luke Reimer led the way with 7 tackles. Now, he also had a half a sack and a tackle for loss. I want to bring this to your attention. With his 7 tackles, he now has 275 in his career, and that's the 7th Husker to total 275 tackles. I'm going to quiz you just a little bit. This is going to be a little bit of fun for me. Can you tell me, you don't have to do an order, anything like that, but can you name the 6 Nebraska Cornhuskers who have eclipsed 275, or aside from Luke Reimer, who have eclipsed 275 tackles in their career?
Barrett Ruud.
Yeah.
Levante David.
He's up there, number 4.
Mike Brown.
Mike Brown's number 3. Barrett Ruud, by the way, number 1 all-time leading tackler for Nebraska with 432 career tackles.
Carlos Polk.
No, sir.
Just say what years they played.
Yes, sir. So believe it or not, one is from 2015 to 2018.
Muhammad Berry?
Mm-mm.
No. He graduated in 19. Dedrick Young.
Dedrick Young. By the way, he's there with 284. There's one player from 1976 to 78 who has 276, who Luke Reimer should pass here this week.
That's before my time.
I know. It's Lee Kuntz. And then the number 2 all-time leading tackler for the University of Nebraska with 342, played for the Huskers, donned the Scarlet and Cream from 1968 to 1970. That is Mr. Jerry Murtaugh.
Ah, okay.
So, want to see. By the way, Jerry Murtaugh also has the 3rd highest tackles in a game, with 25 tackles in 1970 against USC.
Who's our all-time leading tackler in a game?
Cleet Pillen. He actually has the top 2. He had 30 tackles in 1976 against Oklahoma State and 27 in 1975 against Oklahoma. And Clete Pillen is tied with Nathan Gary with 273 tackles, which is now a tie for 8th place behind Luke Reimer.
Dang, a lot of tackles.
Yep.
Well, shall we put a fork in the Michigan State talk and do a prediction for talk about the implications?
Although I do want to say, first of all, we didn't lose by kicking it to the wrong side of the field.
True.
We did lose, but we talked about this. I don't think Michigan State beat us. No. You know, clearly you look at the tape, we beat ourselves. We either didn't play well. We didn't play well in all field, which just last week I said something about, winning in all 3 phases, and we didn't do that. But we struggled on offense. We struggled in the passing game, especially. And defense, again, just didn't look – I don't want to say they didn't look prepared. Again, no juice, no fire, no energy. Let me see, what can you say? Tristan Alvano had himself a day. Had averaged, let's see. Well, he had it was a 24-yard. I don't know. I get my games confused. But he's gaining consistency. And I'll take that because he's improved quite a bit from where he was in the Minnesota and Colorado games. Did the players – look, I know that this group of players, they want to be the ones to return Nebraska to some type of postseason football. We have to remember, Matt Rule says it, we say it, although we get a little ahead of ourselves, so we can do that as fans. Win the day, go 1-0 this week.
Incremental improvement.
You go 1-0 every week for 12 weeks.
You're 12-0.
You're in a good spot, but you can't be thinking about playing in December if you're still trying to win in November. So
One game at a time.
I think that the key for this week for this home contest against Maryland is to refocus, and you're going to have to look, the Big Ten's up. Outside of the top tier teams, the Big Ten and specifically the Big Ten West is a shit show. So play your football and go and win the ball game.
I agree. There's an opportunity there to really bury Maryland here. They're, I think they're on a 5-game losing streak right now. And, play your football, punch them in the mouth early, run the football. And then, they're pretty one-dimensional on offense. And so we can really kind of game plan to stop their passing game and just find a way to get that 6th win. I'd feel much better about having that 6th win now than as opposed to needing it up in Madison when they're doing jump around as we're heading into the 4th quarter on a Saturday night, or as others have pointed out, the quick turnaround of a short week with Iowa, for all the marbles. So we got to find a way against Maryland to contain, Tua's brother, because I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. I'm just going to go with that. Talia Tagovailoa. I think that sounds about right. We'll go with it. And, Maryland always has a lot of good explosive skill talent. But we need to play our brand of football, and, really punch them in the mouth on an 11 a.m. kickoff. And kind of, it'd be nice if another team returned the favor and kind of slept-walked a little bit through an 11 a.m. kickoff on the road,
This is a Maryland team that lost some close ones to some teams that Nebraska has beaten. They lost by 6 points to Northwestern a couple of weeks back. Prior to that, they lost to Illinois. So Nebraska had a lot of success against these Land of Lincoln teams, and Maryland not so much. Maryland's last win did come at the end of September 30th, against Indiana. That was a 44-17 tilt. But they
stopped in Gary.
I don't think Bloomington and Gary are near one another. But
the West Belt guy, so I'll trust you.
Thank you. Some losses to some top 10 teams. They lost to Ohio State 37-17 and then got pretty well shellacked this past week against Penn State 51-15. They had 2 non-conference wins, 38-20 to open things up against I'm sorry. They had 3 non-conference wins. If you go back to Towson, in the early September, 38-6. I don't know if that one counts. They did beat Charlotte 38-20. They beat Virginia 42-14. Probably their best win on the season. But yeah, to your point, they're 4-1 in their last 5 games. Losers of 4 straight, that is. So it's time to keep the pressure on, and I don't want to just rehash everything you said, but how great would it be for this fan base to become bowl eligible in Lincoln this Saturday? You might have, as rabid as this fan base is, and I say this with all love and respect, but you have a fan base, they might storm the field and rip off a goalpost or something. I mean, like, that's how hungry we are. And people will be like, they're overreacting a little bit for beating a bad Maryland team. No, we're overreacting a little bit because we've waited a long time to get back
one
to
of those things. Like, do you know the darkness that we've seen?
Right. It's like the Disturbed version of Sound of Silence. It Hello Darkness, my old friend.
With you again.
It's such a good. Gosh dang, that's a good song.
I prefer the Simon and Garfunkel version.
I like them both. Look, we could get way into the weeds on this. There's a really good version of Sound of Silence from some British guy who came over. He was like a finalist on Britain's Got Talent, came over and did it on America's Got Talent, sang that song. It's very good. But the Disturbed,
send me a link for it.
I will. I'll hook you up. I know people who also have internet, so I'll get that to you. But so yeah, take care of business. Play within yourself. Don't try to do too much. And run the fucking ball.
Run the damn ball.
All right, Haas, give me your prediction since you won't be with us later this week.
I want to say, on one hand, I want to keep it in that lower, mid-teens scoring just because that's where we've kind of resided. But I'm going to say Nebraska wins a close one, 27-24 in overtime.
Don't do that overtime to me, man.
It just seems like it's ripe for the picking.
I feel like if I look at my Saturday, I feel like I got something going on Saturday. Can we just get this one over quickly? Like, can we just run the ball, control the clock, and have like one drive in the second quarter that takes up another 9.5 minutes where we score 7 points?
What you got going on Saturday? You plan on driving up to Gary, Indiana?
Gary, Indiana, not Louisiana, Paris, France, New York, Rome.
I forgot those lyrics. Yeah.
You're welcome. No, I don't have Gary, Indiana plans, but it is the weekend, and my son usually wants to try to do something.
They'll usually be like, "Hey, guess what we're doing, son?
We're watching the football game." That's what we did last weekend.
You just gotta stop. We get 12 of these per year. Do you know how many weeks are in a year?
He keeps wanting to go, and this is like, look, God bless him. He loves to go on adventures and to go explore. He keeps wanting to go to St. Louis. I think he's due. I'm due to take him up in the Arch, so that'll be fun. We'll do that sometime, just not on a Nebraska football Saturday.
Yeah, be like, hey, we'll go on Sunday.
Sunday's laundry day, dude. Do you know how much laundry I do with 3 kids?
Yeah, probably quite a bit.
It's never ending. All right. Nobody cares about my problems. Everybody else, there are people out there like, I got way more than 3 kids. And some of them even, then we ain't going to go down that road. All right.
Before we get out of here, I just want to say, if you ever find yourself thinking of going to East Lansing,
just don't.
Maybe reconsider.
I think before I go to East Lansing, first of all, I don't know if I want, like, I don't have any desire really to go to Michigan, period. I know that's a mean thing to say.
No.
I think I'd rather go to Happy Valley than East Lansing.
East Lansing, like, let me say this too. Their stadium's a dump. Straight up. I'm just going to say it. All right. Like, old Wrigley Field before they renovated dump. And so, like, it makes you appreciate what we got in Lincoln. And also, like, your crowd, Michigan State, show up on time.
What else you got to do? It's a college town. You ain't got ain't got nothing else going on. There's no other game in town. Get your butts in the seats.
I mean, were you working at the Gary Steelworks a little late and you had to drive up later? I mean, like,
you got this, like, oh my God, this impeccable, like, unplanned hatred for some random town in North Indiana. In Indiana.
Dude, it was wild, man.
Well, hopefully your next road trip
You know what
is,
the worst part is? I walked into a gas station in Gary that was across the street from a Burger King. And then I walked in and the commercial, the Whopper, Triple Whopper commercial was playing on the TV in the truck stop. I wanted just to, basically just be like, I give up because I hate that song.
Look, I'm not, this is me not putting the cart before the horse. This is me not saying, you never know. Hypothetically, if Nebraska represented the Big Ten West in Indianapolis in a few weeks, in a month, and you were going, because you would, you'd have to drive through Gary, Indiana, right?
Actually, no. Actually, no.
Here's where we see the interstate map.
No, I'm like the human compass. I would go 80 into Illinois,
Fact.
and then right after I get into Illinois, around Moline, take 74 down through Peoria, Bloomington, Champaign.
If you're only listening to this and not watching it, he's looking down. He's got this ready to go on his phone. He's like, all right, just got to get a hotel room, got to get a ticket. That won't be a problem. Nobody's going to want to go see Ohio State again.
Actually, I'm on a self-imposed ban from conference championship games. I've been to 3 and we've lost all 3.
Okay.
06 against Oklahoma and Arrowhead, lost. 09 against Texas, lost. 2010 against Oklahoma, lost.
But those are all Big 12 conference.
No. I really would like to watch my team play in a conference championship game from the comfort of my own home and not watch us lose by 39 points to a team that we beat previously a few months before, Wisconsin.
We won't have that problem. Look, we've already lost to Michigan. We wouldn't play Ohio State or Penn State in the regular season. So that particular scenario would not happen this year.
No, I don't have any PTO.
That's fine. What about non-paid time off? Just
I
see y'all on Monday.
I have this thing that I really enjoy. It's called getting paid.
That's fair. Yeah. All right. Well,
so as much as I like Husker football, I like getting paid just a little bit more.
Depends on the day, I think. Yeah. If Nebraska wins the conference championship, I think I'll like Nebraska football.
Yeah, Nebraska, if we made it to the Big Ten championship game and won it, I would tell you, I probably wouldn't go to bed that night.
No, you'd be closing down every bar on O Street.
I don't live in Lincoln.
I don't remember where O Street. I thought O Street was in Omaha because it's O for Omaha.
Omaha's got Dodge Street, and the gathering place used to be 72nd and Dodge, but not anymore.
All right, so for all of you Eastern Nebraska natives,
drink my weight in Oscar's Pizza and Coors Banquet beer.
Oh, that's a lot of bad beer.
It's a lot of good beer.
All right, we could go on and have these side conversations all night long, but by God, there's work to do. So, for my great friend and broadcast buddy Hoss Reuter, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is Coronation Overreaction, and we keep it simple on these recordings. We just say, go Big Red and
win the damn game 27-24 overtime.
Don't do that overtime shit to me, man. I'm telling
Tristan
you.
Alvano kicks a 59-yard field goal to force overtime.
Can he do it like walk-off style? Can't he just do it in regulation?
Yeah, don't you want a 59-yard field goal to try to force overtime, and so all of us are just sitting there wanting to basically jump off a bridge because the anxiety is so bad?
No, I'll be chewing my damn arm off up to my elbow. I just want to win the game in regulation and then go do other things.
Do you want me to go with my other radical prediction?
No, I want to hit end recording.
14, Nebraska 14, Maryland 10.
That seems honestly more logical, likely to happen.
Yeah. And, Nebraska in a few weeks is going to be Nebraska 3, Iowa 2.
It might be Nebraska 2, Iowa nothing.
I mean, like, how are they going to score on our defense? Conversely, how are we going to score on their offense or on their defense?
Pick six. We'll score a pick six.
So,
I'm ending the show now.
Okay. Go. You got to get to Gary. Go.